Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Torelli. I'm the chairman of the Orange County Industrial Development Agency and Orange County Funding Corporation. I always say. Today is Tuesday, October 11th, roughly 5:35 p.m. And we're going to start our meeting. We do not have quorum tonight so far, so we'll just be like a working session type committee meeting on finance. If you all can stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we'll start with Orange County Funding Corporation, and less transactions of the two. And what we have here is looks like some financials, what we have on account, and the Resiliency Loan Fund, and some payables. So if Bill or Shannon or Kelly want to take us through this briefly, we don't need to go line by line, just highlight what we need to talk about. And then while it's only Mark and I here at this point, we'll make an informal recommendation either to or not to go to the board with any changes.
Shannon, Kelly's got the muzzle on me. When you're on the call, I'm going to shut up and going to let you go through these, okay?
Okay. So for the funding corp, the only activity was interest income from both the bank and the loans for 165.6. So that's all that's on the budget versus actual. The next page is just where the bank balances stood. So your checking account at Chase had approximately $183,000 in it. Your Orange Bank and Trust Money Market had approximately $1.3 million, and your Walk Hill Valley Federal Savings and Loan had $200,000 for a total of 1.7. And then your resiliency loans. So out of the 49, 21 are paid in full, 28 are partial. Of the 28, there are 10 that are current, 18 behind, and 3 that I have not paid to date. And the interest earned to date is $5,294. So you have $93,000 that is still unpaid. Of that, 30 has been no payments to date. So you're about 63 that are partial or current. And that's funding corp.
Okay, one of the things that I will ask for you guys to work on, either Shannon and staff, is as we go through the upcoming audit, we need to come up with a determination of a dollar amount of a potential write-off. In the past, we've done some write-offs in the past. We may have covered enough of it, because we've done some significant ones. I don't know if there was a distinct formula or not. It's more, I think, of a feeling and an estimate, but a recommendation. Yeah. So it's something I'd ask for you guys to work on so that we can have that ready for whomever the board chooses to do the audit. Knowing that we have a balance of $93,000, and I think we've already taken some write-offs in excess of 75, 70, something like that. So not that we need to make that decision tonight, but it's something I'd like you guys to work on so that we can give that to the auditors, and everyone can come to a consensus and present it to the board for a vote on, on how we want to do that. Sure.
Yeah, that'll be part of our year-end wrap-up where we look at the accruals and look at your receivables on the entities and determine based on past and what we think the future is going to hold, and we'll make those estimates or write-offs as necessary.
This ends sometime in 23, right? The schedule of payments with the 6-month extension ends sometime in 23. May of 23. Thank you. All right. So obviously we'll be doing this page through 2023, and hopefully by the end of 2023 we can finalize this and come up with whatever is the end game of it.
Yep. Yeah, Shannon, one question if I could. When we come up with another write-off amount, it's not going to affect this report at all, really, right?
So it will, because what we would end up doing is we will write those loans off in the loan program. So that sheet will say, and we can create another category of written off so that it would show, okay, these were paid fully, these were paid partially, you know, as we progress until the end, and these were written off, because we'll I mean, we know which ones haven't paid, so it'll be pretty easy.
Back to get the payment, so.
Right, yeah.
So that would go.
Yeah, and if there's no going after them by the organization, then you might as well write them off.
Did any of our other local IDAs do resiliency loan funds, or was it just us?
I know our town of Montgomery did.
Did they?
Yeah, they did like a,
Okay.
they did that as well.
You can just see what their percentage of recovery was, you know, just, and anyone else that you speak with in happenstance, to see how we're doing. I mean, 80% recovery on a loan fund for businesses that were in trouble is, you know, I don't know, I'm no banker. I used to be, you know, 2 decades ago, but it's pretty damn good for me, I think. You know, I mean, but
I think some of it's still to be expected.
it's to be expected.
Right. I have a meeting with the Montgomery IDA later this week.
Oh, awesome, yeah, and whoever else you speak with over
Yeah,
the
for
course.
sure, absolutely.
Continue on.
And how about, exactly, you want to go through the payables as well?
Yeah, we have one payable, and it's for the Village of Highland Falls restoration for $190. He says the balance to go of $3,061.27 on that.
Left to potentially be reimbursed.
And if I could just explain to Mr. Green, so that is for what used to be called a grant, but we don't make grants, and we will not be making grants going forward. But the Village of Highland Falls applied for and received a, all of a sudden I'm forgetting the name of the program, is
Main Street?
Restore New York.
Yeah.
Restore New York,
Yeah,
or Main Street, something?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
one of
this one was Restore New York. And for facade improvements, but that grant did not cover soft costs like engineering costs, mostly around that work. So they came to the IDA for help with that. And the total balance was how much allocated for?
Originally was 45.
45,000, and they've we paid that down through from various invoices that we've received down to, you know, what is it, less than, less than, right, so, or just over 3,000. And we won't be doing things like that except for under very special. So, heads up on that. Okay, and that's everything at our OCFC, right?
Mark, any questions on this?
Pretty much the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
What we'll do is, we'll table discussion about dollar amounts in certain accounts to the end. I think Mark and I want to probably hash out maybe a vision on what we think to move forward with.
Okay.
You know, we'll have an open discussion, but for this, while it's an informal recommendation, I'll make a motion. Well, we're not going to vote on it, but yeah, we're going to push this to the board to consider.
All right, then we'll get into the income statement for OCIDA.
Okay, so the IDA had income of $9,521.48 for the month of September, and that includes interest and subtenant rents. There were administrative costs of $13,311.03. The majority of that is your insurance came due. So the annual expense of that is $11,814.78. And you had $4,704 of agency support expenses. A majority of that is the IT support and audiovisual. So that's 88 Studio, Zoom, Google, etc. And your marketing and PR, which is the Mid-Hudson News. Your legal expenses were $7,020. 5,000 of that is the application pass-through, and then $2,020.77 was general counsel expenses. So your total expenses for that was $25,035.85. Your total payroll expenses are $28,504.86, which is right in line with the monthly budgeted amount. Your rent for the month was $17,502.57. Part of that's, you know, just timing of when bills are coming in and getting paid. So when you're looking at the budget, it's a little off, but you're still in line with where you should be. And your utilities, internet, and maintenance are right in line. Actually, your maintenance is much lower than your budget, but that's just because there are other things that were factored in that might occur during the year. So because we split the budget up by month, but that's just your cleaning and garbage. So Overall, your total expenses were 50,146 with a net loss of 65,660.42. But overall, when you
Question I would
compare,
have here,
yep, go ahead.
sorry, Sharon.
Yeah.
Obviously, the big difference on year-to-date budget and actual is closing fees, budgeted for 810, 195, and we only have, well, roughly 2.5 months left. Do we think we have any other closings that can happen before the end of the year to make up that difference?
I want to make sure I'm talking about the same 0810 on closing fees
Yeah.
for ours.
Well, we've only closed on 3 projects.
2
So
and
we
3.
have Walgreens,
Royal Line.
Royal Wine,
Yeah, so what else is there?
yes, maybe Milmar.
Potentially Milmar, but considering the time it takes to close it,
Yeah.
we're witnessing
Yeah,
now
yeah.
for the first time going
Yeah,
through it
yeah.
ourselves. I think Royal Line should close, and Viva, I hope so. They went through a little restructuring, and they're supposed to be coming back to us with that.
So for staff and for, in consulting, I would just ask what a estimate would be for the board meeting. So you,
Okay.
so you have a talking point on that. You could say, okay, the big difference here obviously is we budgeted for X amount in closing. We believe, or we're estimating, that these 4 projects, whether you have them individually or not, it's irrelevant, but these 4 projects are going to produce 810, it might produce 410, it might produce 1,010,000. I don't know what that is, but it's something that you would want to potentially present to the board so they know that these are projects that we've been working on, and timing, we only have 2.5 months left.
Right.
It could happen this year, or it could spill into next year. So
Okay.
that's, I think, the biggest difference that jumps out to me on a page, because you should have roughly what the estimates of those closing costs are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can do that. We'll have that.
Obviously, subject to change, but.
Yep.
Um,
We'll give you the best indication, and
yeah,
I wouldn't stretch it to say, let's hope we get this one in. I'll tell you what, I think is realistic.
yeah, I mean, and it's gonna close when it's gonna close. I mean, you know,
Some things are unforeseen for us.
yeah, and there's, I think that's the biggest difference when we're talking about this type of stuff, that I see, that literally affects the bottom line. Obviously, there's some small differences here and there, but I think that's the biggest one, so I just ask you guys to keep it.
Okay, so then let's move on to your bank accounts and CDs and money markets. So you have a total of 8 CDs that come to a grand total of $2,452,934. You also have your Chase Bank has $5.3 million. You have 5,000 or 50,268 in your Orange Bank and Trust. For Accelerator, which will probably be another discussion at the end of the year, whether we phase out all those bank accounts and stuff. The checking account at Orange Bank and Trust for your escrows has 74,255, and your money market at Sterling and Webster is 1.7 for a grand total of cash and what we call cash equivalents of 9,649,915. And that's all I have.
Our interest are, it's close to $5,500. That's all from our CD income, right?
CD and cash, yeah.
Interest income?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's an eye-opener to me that it's more than just pennies. You know, we're talking thousands, but
Yeah.
we've got a couple million invested, so.
You can see that you
Well, you know.
budgeted 12,000 annually and you're at 16,218.82, and you still have 3 more months technically of recording. So if you're staying in line with that, it could be another $15,000.
More recent investments.
Oh, it's a good comparison to what wasn't done in the past.
Exactly.
So
So
the
that's kind of
fiduciary
fun, yeah, it makes sense
responsibility
to see that much.
of the fiduciary responsibility of previous boards almost proven to be lacked.
Correct.
Big time. You know, I mean, and that's just on very conservative basis. So like you talked about, every dollar earned is a dollar that. Well, like, once again, we'll come back to a conversation maybe after we go over this and of what we want to game plan for. we'll continue on with the payables and then we'll,
And do you want to do payables? Do you want Kelly and I to do it?
No, you guys can do it. I don't have them in front of me. I only prepped for the financial stuff.
I think that's more appropriate. And Kelly, I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm gonna ask you to go through it, all right? Because you know these very, very well.
you don't need to go line by line.
Okay.
So on the reoccurring, anything that jumps off at you as maybe being high, low, disappearing, you know, in the future, stuff that you would just note in a public type of meeting. We don't need to go over specific line by line.
It's pretty much, normal, when we get down to Dan, the lesser group, after we cut these two checks, be the last time we cut checks for them because we're gonna be out of Middletown in November.
And that lease expires November 25th, so be done with the Middletown Accelerator then.
Yeah.
And Kelly's been doing a great job. I'll just interrupt quickly about that to let you know that been going on site, seeing who's moving out and all that. We're staying really on top of it. So we're seeing great progress. Kelly, sorry.
When you say the bands are lesser, are you talking about that 13.6?
So the 6,804, because that's for 2 months. The
Gotcha, okay.
6 is for 2 months.
And you're saying that's gonna go away?
Yes. This is the last time we're gonna be cutting a check for them.
The lease is ending.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Obviously, with anything with leases ending, you obviously make sure you, with any of the cams, utility, whatever, obviously, you guys know this. You've been through this drill, but make sure it transfers over to the landlord so it gets out of our name 100%.
And what goes along with the Middletown will be, our Frontier will be ending, we'll probably have another bill in December just as because of the way they bill and everything,
But now, isn't that one that, oh no, it's the copier
That-
lease in Middletown that's gonna continue longer because of the
until February, because that's our lease ends in February on that one. And also, one of the cleaning companies will be ending, the LCS will be ending in, November.
and of course, any maintenance tied to that location. So under maintenance, we have cleaning, we have sanitation, that's all underneath
Yeah.
that line item for Middletown. Of course, those will all go away. The only thing that will hang over, as Kelly's talking about, is our copier lease there. I'm sure they intended to keep the accelerator running, you know, renew their lease and everything. But the lease for we're ending, of course, next month. The lease for the copier happens to go to February. We've talked about maybe moving that to Warwick for a couple of months because we don't really have one there. Unfortunately, we're stuck paying that until.
Let's
that
just make
lease
sure
is
it's
ready.
secure and that no one, that doesn't,
The only
Fine
problem
wax.
is we have to
Right.
pay to get that moved, and I don't know if it would behoove us to pay to
That's
get
what
it
we're
moved
talking
for
about.
2 months or 3 months.
we're just turning it on.
And say, look, you know,
Would we pay the full amount typically? Would they give us any break, would you expect? on
they
that?
might, I mean, and it's worth asking, you know,
Okay.
I've been on both sides of the equation, so, I mean, it seems to me this is dead, right? Because
Yes.
by the amount you're gonna have to spend to move this, a decent sized machine, right?
It's a good size
Oh,
copy.
yeah.
And then we're also talking about the potential for it to be damaged. Then
Or something
why not at least give them the option, you know, to say, hey, look, we wanna buy ourselves out of the lease. The worst they can do is come back and say the full amount. Back and save a few bucks, it's some cost.
Yeah.
So if we can save a couple $100, then.
Okay, we'll approach them about that, right? Yeah, no, it's definitely worth trying. Sure, even if it's $100 savings, whatever, so.
Then, Mike, you had asked for this, but on the second page of the reoccurring, you see the staff, the EA workforce staff line total, that's the payroll.
Yep.
And we just did the full number, that's what you had asked for.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that okay like that here? With
yeah,
the
I mean, as
separate
long as
report?
it's matching the number on the report, right?
Oh, no, because that report is,
The month,
Oh, month,
Yeah.
sorry,
but it will match next month.
no, that's next one. Something for who's ever doing a self-audit can double check that we're
Okay.
approving one and it's, okay. Yeah, thank you for adding that, because it's something that should be shown. So it looks like reoccurring is 67,126.41.
the total, yeah.
Total. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't see anything that shouldn't go to the full board. The reoccurring stuff is, stuff that we've talked about. We've already said a lot of it's gonna be ending, so it's gonna be cleaning up. Here,
Yeah.
which is nice. Yep, continue on.
And then we're going on to the monthly contracts. Nothing really that stands out. RBT, that's for 2 months, the 2450.
Mhm.
And, everything else is pretty much the same. As you can see, Loki Brill was also for 2 months because we didn't get their bill in August.
Okay.
Again, that's just projects they're doing our local labor monitoring on before we changed companies. So they're finishing projects that they started, and that's all their work is on that. And
Any
they
guess
do-
on when that will be done? It all depends on the projects that they're on,
Yeah,
right?
one is,
Because they have
Green
2
Thumb.
laws.
yeah,
It's gonna be a while.
It'll be a while. Talk several more. Anything else? So they wrapped up.
They just
Limoncello.
closed out Orange Inn, and GM was closed out last month, I believe.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, okay.
They're almost done. It's just,
Yeah, just,
ETI, TRL will be the last one.
if there's a mechanism to get one of the local guys onto that, I don't know, but have a discussion with them, but,
Okay.
you know, just so that it's just easier on us.
Right.
But whatever, I mean, if it lasts another 2-3 years, I hate to have 3 labor monitors.
Right.
You know, I'm just trying to make it easier on you guys to manage and pull.
And that's, for the monthly contract, it's $49.
None of this is going away, this is all part of the,
Yeah.
Correct.
So, I mean,
yeah,
Loki Brill might go down a little bit because they just closed out.
yeah, understand,
And eventually it'd be different.
yeah, that'd be a different, yeah.
So that's going to continue. The last page up.
And then for all other, we have a check for the accelerator to get the bank account up because a lot of these bills are coming out of that checking account. So we needed to transfer money over from the IDA into the accelerator bank account. We're hoping that this will be our last time we're transferring the money, and then we're going to try to bring everything over to the IDA.
So, Shannon alluded to that earlier, and, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of anything that says business accelerator, and we added.
Yeah, I don't like
checking
this one.
account for that. No, absolutely not. So we're looking to get rid of that. We want to make sure we check.
Because it's not an official entity.
No.
So it's just a nickname for a checking account that we pay our expenses from that are accelerator focused.
So we check with general counsel to make sure there's no reason it had to be out of a certain account, this, that, and the other does not. So Kelly and Shannon are working on it. Eliminating that and getting everything else.
It would be nice if we could eliminate that by the end of the year, so we're just working out of one account for all of our expenses
That's all.
on the IDA side, and another account out of the OCFC, obviously they have to be. If I don't like it, I understand it.
Right.
We only have 50,000 in that account now. We need to get more money in order to pay all these bills.
And then transition
Right.
fully over that. So, but we expect by the end of the year, we'll be done with that.
And then, the only other one is this tech lock and key. We had to get, locks changed down in Warwick, on a couple of doors because tenants were like kind of sharing 2 spaces and now they don't want to share them, so
Okay.
we had to do that, but that will go over into the CAM charges for them, so we'll get that money back.
Okay.
And that's a total of $100,725.
Cool. Mark, any questions on? No. All right, so I mean, while it's an informal recommendation, we'll have that go to the board, both the financials and the payables, with a couple notes about the closing fees, so you can be prepared for that. And you can say, you know, we're going to expect, but, you know, it might not time out. You know, we only have 2.5 months left, so hard to predict.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
I'll project them all.
All right, all right, so with that, I don't know if we need Shannon anymore, we can release her, or, yep. Shannon, thank you so much.
Not a problem. Have a good night.
Yeah, Shannon, bye-bye.
All right, so open discussion. So obviously, we have money in OCFC and IDA that is sitting and not working for us. And we've had this discussion now probably a half dozen times. One of the things I'm thinking of, I'd like to get Mark's opinion and staff's opinion, whatever. We gotta put this to bed. You know, we gotta make a decision or a policy or a procedure that is easier than just talking about it and punting. And while we don't have to do it all at once, I think we need to have board buy-in, staff buy-in, you know, obviously legal buy-in on what we should be doing. We have a fiduciary responsibility. one of the things I'm thinking about, I want to have more meetings. But thinking about having a special meeting just focused on this. All the homework done so we can make a decision at that meeting with the full board move forward, whether we make it as part of a board meeting or we make it as a special meeting just to talk about that. Because fun punting it's tough. Now, granted, you don't put all your eggs in one basket and you don't always purchase stuff at the same time, but if we have a game plan that we can move forward with to be able to pull the trigger on making conservative investments at best, because that's what we're allowed to do, and with the data, I think it feels like we're stagnant. I hate being stagnant with the potential for opportunity, because who knows what applications are going to come and not come in the near future with this economy, exacerbation of this recession, I call it a recession, whatever. So I'm not sure. What are your opinions, Mark? What do you think? What do you think is the game plan?
Well, I'll start with, nothing gained is something lost, right? But I also want to make sure, look, the options that we have today, I will disagree with you, being the new guy that just came on. I will disagree with you as a consultant that would come in and say, you should have done something 6, 8, 10, 12 months ago. Because the fact of the matter is, there was nothing you could have done that time frame. Interest rates were at rock bottom. They've been at rock bottom for years. So I wouldn't have said to you, you should be investing in the market, because quite frankly, the storms are on the horizon. So I urge you to not feel like you've wasted time, because I don't think you have. I really don't think you had options. Now we do have options. And
If we had locked in earlier, maybe we would have.
well, you kind of already did, because of your feeling of like helplessness.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple here that we're locked in for a year that we're probably going to lose a little money on. But I would rather do something, right? I forgot what the phrase is. Continue to improve versus standing around waiting for perfection, right? And so, but I do believe now we are in a situation where we can do some things. And I remember there's like, I think you mentioned it last time, one of the things that we normally got, IBM, is going to Evergreen this year. And, and I've mentioned, I said, look, I think if we do something with this money, it will almost make up for that loss. Because if you're looking at, $5 million and you go, okay, well, what's 10% of $5 million? 500,000. We're not getting 10%. 5% is 250,000. We're not getting that. But a 2.5%, you're talking about $100,000 to $125,000 in income that would offset a lot of that IBM that's not going to be here, and that's real money that we could offset running the business on. Sure. So my opinion now, you had mentioned that we're allowed to make conservative investments. That is in the eye of the beholder. And so my question to you all is, what are classified as conservative investments, right? You could have somebody come in here and say, well, bonds are conservative. Value stocks that pay a dividend are conservative. I would disagree, but you could have somebody there. So I'm going to answer your question by asking a question. What is our allowed mandate? Is it CDs? Fine. Is it a little bit more than CDs? I personally would not feel comfortable taking this money and doing anything that I could see even the slightest potential of losing. It's not our money, and again, if you want to argue about it, we certainly can discuss.
No, yeah, I definitely hear you, Mark. I mean, I think it's, to answer one of your questions, I don't know the answers, so I wish that I did. We've asked these questions before. We've gotten some partial answers. We did find out over the course of months that we cannot do any investments in credit unions because of some state law or something or whatever. But there's got to be something in the enabling legislation that tells us what we can and cannot do. I don't know it. I'm not gonna profess to know.
We know we're okay with CDs, money market accounts, and interest earning checking accounts. Bonds and, like you're saying, what are you saying, dividend?
Well, you could say, well, gee, yeah, I'm not saying we do this. I'm
Yeah,
saying
absolutely.
someone else could come in
Find out
and
what our
say,
rules are.
but like you could say, well, we could do a basket of utilities that all are paying a dividend on average of 3%, and that could be, it all depends on your perspective, on what you consider risky or not. I consider that way too risky for this. My personal money? No, I'm,
You got longer term vision.
absolutely. But this isn't my money, and
Yeah.
so I can't look you in the eye and say we should do that. The reason I'm asking that question, though, about what is the investment allowability, I took the liberty, I have my accounts at Chase and Port Jervis. I know you all have done the work, and I don't have it on me, but, about 6 months ago, you went and you called all the different banks up.
I've done it a couple times.
Right. And so, like, when I have different investments, but I have a decent amount in CDs, because I don't like where the world is going, I don't like where the economy is going. So I talked to the guy over at Chase and said, look, this is haven't even started going into this, but what would it take for me to come in and say, hey, I've got X amount? Because what the advantage for having him is he can then look at hundreds of different banks across the country and say, here are all your 3-month CDs, here are all your 6-month CDs, here are all your 1-year CDs. And we can put 250,000 there, 250,000 there, 250,000 there, because of the FDIC, insurance and those kinds of things. I know the gentleman that was here had been in the, that was in the seat, he's been in the banking industry, so you can kind of negotiate sometimes, hey, can we get more? I don't know if I want to do that because it's time, right? And it's effort. And to be perfectly blunt, I don't know if this, I want this to be my full-time job, going around, bargaining with every single bank we possibly can. I'd like to be able to go in and have a one-stop shop that says, let's go 250 here, 250 there. Because again, at the end of the day, and this is another discussion we're going to have, is how much are we going to do? We've got almost $5 million sitting there. We might not want to do all of that. We might, but if you combine it, it's even more. So maybe we say, look, do we really want $1 million sitting in a checking account that's not doing anything? So,
And you have the immediate liquidity of money market accounts that hardly earn anything, but there is more than a checking account.
exactly.
So there's that aspect as well.
Exactly. So it's really going down, and so looking and coming up with a plan, but the overarching thing is we say, as a group, we want X amount we'll have in 3-month CDs, and then every time they come due, we'll rotate those into the next 3-month CDs after that. That way we have not 100% liquidity, but pretty darn close, right? And then you can say, and we're going to take X amount in 6 months, so when that comes due, we'll rotate it right away to another 6 months and a year. And when that comes due, we can then reassess where the world is, and if we're confident, rolling that into another year. And so basically, you have a grid of all your stuff, and then every time it comes due, you immediately want to make sure that you're on top of that. You're not letting it sit there for a month or two, because that's now you're getting away from that. That would be my vision. But the first stumbling block for me is the guy at Chase said to me, well, you have to make absolutely sure that you have your mandate allows you to work with me. Because yes, I do CDs, but I can also do any other type of investment. And so you have to make sure that your mandate allows you to work with someone like me, so that someone couldn't go rogue and decide we're going to take that $1 million and betting it on black.
Yeah.
So, Now, are you saying that you work with a rep at Chase who helps you even invest in other institutions?
Yeah, so at Chase, like my CDs are all over the country.
Different banks.
With different banks to prevent the going over the insurance list.
Right.
So, so I've got a few 3 months coming due on November 17th. And, you know, by November 18th, we will have that money rolled over into other things. And so that would be my vision for this. But I just need to make sure, you know, I know we want to stay local. And I agree with staying local. I guess the question is, what is local? And what is the work that's going to happen? And I think that's what the pushback is going to be. Are we all going to scatter across Orange County and go, okay, we want to set up a CD here, can we do $250,000? Can we do more than two? Can't we? What do we have to sign? And now you're going to be running around trying to sign relationships with all these different banks. Where's our fiduciary duty?
Yeah.
Is it to spend that time and all that effort and try to do that and perhaps not get the best rates, or be able to say, look, here's a list of 100 banks across the country, be insured at all of these.
Also, what comes with this, Mark, and you might not be aware, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is that our investment policy, I don't even know if it's called that, you have to name the banks.
And they have to be approved.
They have to be approved by the board
for us to be able to invest.
to invest in them. And some, I'll say, revisionist history. In the past, a long time ago, not this board, not the previous board, but the board before those, they financed them. They had a whole staff of people that did this not only for the county, but they also made recommendations to the IDA. And most of the time, the IDA took those recommendations and with them and did it. You know, so you had a whole department at the county level. We asked for that, but I don't think that's ever going to come back because they want I'll say a distance from us. Yeah. Whether or not a investment banker can be hired or not, I'm not sure. Because I think that would be the job of a CFO.
Right.
We don't have a CFO because we've chosen not to at this point in time. We have a CFO for hire, which is RBT, Shannon is in the lead of that. But we haven't asked them to do this yet. It's something we could ask a CFO or a consultant for hire to do for us, or it's something we can have an investment banker do for us, or it's something that we can do our best as a group as. I'm open to all of this, you know, but what's allowed, like allowable investments has always been a question mark to me. And who's the know-how on that? Is it, Bluestein Holstein or Bluestein Holstein, say that, or Canada from Albany? I mean, they all probably have knowledge, but maybe we should get the actual interpretation of the enabling legislation that says what we can and can't do.
Let me ask you this. Why don't maybe we try it from a different angle. I go to the gentleman I work with, and I say, look, you know, you had said that you want to make sure that we're allowed. Give me the paperwork we would need. And then once we get the paperwork, then we could then try to say, okay, who can sign off on this or who couldn't sign off on it? And maybe that gives us a little more direction to help us, because right now I feel like you're going, okay, who the hell do I talk to? Do I figure this
So
out?
you've had this discussion with Chase about the IDA, you're saying, not
I
just
did.
about yourself. Okay.
No. I had to talk about the idea because I was talking about myself. I said, look, I'm now on the board of this IDA. No promises. I'm not saying we're going to. I'm just asking, what are options? And he said, well, what you should probably try to find out. So I feel like we haven't really found out. But maybe if I go to him and say, hey, give me the paperwork, then it points us in the direction. Say, well, what is this? Okay, who can I talk to about this? That this special permission we need. Who would tell us if we can or can't? And if the answer is you can, then we can have the discussion about whether we want to, or if we can't, well, then we go to plan B. And plan B is we shop around and try to figure this out.
The other thing is maybe asking New York State EDC, the organization that we belong to as IDAs, is there other IDAs that are in this situation where they have, I'll say, between $5 to $10 million? What is their best practices? I mean, I'm sure, I know not all IDAs have funding, and a lot of them are just volunteer and they just hope and pray that they have some funding to do some stuff. But there's some bigger IDAs, like in some cities and stuff, that probably have, significant stuff. if we can say, like, maybe Sue knows that, maybe, what's the guy's,
Ryan Silva from the EDC.
and what's the guy, the first name for quality?
Oh, Chris Canada.
Chris Canada, I keep on saying Canada, but that's because it's north. Maybe they know of some people that you can pick best practices from, you know, does your committee do it? Like, do you have an investment bank? You know, those type of things.
That's a good idea because I know I could spend all day raving
Yeah.
about Sue Cass up in our team. There are clearly areas where it just aren't her areas of expertise, and I think this is one of them. But Hodgson Russ, a firm like that, they got a lot of resources.
Maybe they know, you know, but at a minimum, we should at least have the enabling legislation, and whether we all want to read it or not, but I'd like to see it again. You know, it's probably someplace on some state website someplace, but if any of our council can provide that to us, at least we can read it and try to interpret it on our own with legal counsel, and then come up with a game plan. I mean, and the game plan could be plan A, plan B, plan C, it could be a little bit of all. I just feel like we need to do more, you know, and more doesn't need to be immediate more, but it needs to, I mean, we've done some stuff, you know, so I think we have our good intentions.
We have missed opportunities.
We have, and missed opportunities, yeah.
Well, I will say now, we are losing.
In the current
Yeah.
environment.
In the current environment, in the current
Yeah.
industry environment, we're losing. And so it is something that should be, so I will say, you know, the other thing is, you know, we could time it so that if, whatever, I could come present to you all at a board meeting, you know, with a monthly board meeting, I could go the day before, 2 days before, and say, okay, give me the best rates on the 3 months, 6 months, what have you, and then I can come present to you. And then say, hey, these are the banks around the country, you know, what information, you know, do you need? And then if everyone approves it, then go back and say, okay, here's what we're gonna do.
One thing we just gotta watch with that, I would say, is having economic development funds go out of state. And I don't know if it's allowed or not, but the perception is you're trying to create jobs in New York. You're trying to create jobs specifically in Orange County. Granted, Orange County is only 816 square miles. There's only so many lending institutions within that. I just don't know perception. I don't know legally. I'm going to say I don't know legally, but perception-wise as well, I don't know if going out of state is something that we would. It would be something that would be tough because of the nature of the funds. It's coming from, well, Lord, the funds are coming from applicants who are paying us fees for creating jobs and creating investment in New York, specifically in Orange County. So that's the perception. Legally, I don't know if it's allowed, but the other side of the equation is the perception of it.
And I'm gonna give you the other side of my equation, which is, wouldn't we have a fiduciary duty to maximize that money
I
to
agree.
fund
Yeah.
future opportunities?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that because I'm disagreeing.
Yeah.
The reason why we're here is because we love our community and we
Yeah.
want to do better things here. You know, it's just one of those things where what is more of a penalty?
Yeah.
Not have, you know, saying, okay, well, we want to stay in Orange County, so we got, you know, 1.5% on our investment versus seeing other opportunities, we got 2.5% on investment.
Yeah. Big difference.
And the difference is $60,000, $80,000.
Yeah.
If we do right, you know, and this, we can go around in circles all day long.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that at least that other side is at least been discussed.
Yeah. I totally agree, Mark. Totally
You know,
agree.
because I'm saying, so if I invest in Orange County Trust, right, which is as homegrown as we can get, what is the trickle down effect? Are they really going to create jobs with that money? that I
Whether
give
loans
them?
out or whatever.
I mean, in all seriousness, they'll probably, you know, that's probably worth one home loan.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's great, but I really don't see Orange County Trust being a leader in the industrial loaning business. They're, you know, so, look,
Yeah.
I'm not here to put my fist on the table. I'm here to give options
Yeah.
and what I think, but I will be disappointed if by January 1st, we haven't
Yeah.
started.
I would agree with
Feel
you.
like we're losing money and we're we're kind of, you know, in inertia, you know, negative.
Let me cut in there, because the last we had this discussion was your recommendation that we wait to see what the Fed does. I don't remember if it was after our last finance committee meeting or after the board meeting, but I think they're raising a point quarter at that time, right? Like one of those days. So do we need to wait any longer? Because that's what we were doing.
No,
So-
because here's the deal. We can sit around and wait longer, but interest rates are already they're already making a difference.
Right.
And so that's why I'm saying that the strategy is, don't lock in for a year with all of our money, even though right now those will be the best rates. Because it's almost a 90% certainty that in a month they're raising rates again. So, okay, we lose a little bit on the 3 month, you know, that we, you know, but sitting around and waiting, now we're wasting money. Again, when interest rates are 0, sitting around ain't no big deal.
Yeah.
But when you can get maybe 2.5, 3, maybe even above 3% right now. 3% on $1 million is 30 grand.
Yeah.
You know, like.
It's 1 month of recurring payments.
Exactly.
Now, if I could, I'll go back to your point about a special meeting or something. I just want to point out, I know we don't have a full group here, but we finished all the work of the standard, aside from the investment discussion. Now tack it on to a finance committee meeting that is run the way we ran it today, with me on the sideline for some of this discussion.
No, but it's got to go to the board for full discussion. And do you want to have the discussion twice?
No,
You know,
do we have to? I mean, why is it so different than anything else we discuss in here?
because we can't make a full decision on what to invest on until it goes to the whole board.
Right, but just like you can't approve the financials, you can recommend.
You can recommend,
So
yeah.
can it be the same line with the in-depth discussion? If
Oh, it
any
could.
board member that wants to be in that discussion can be here.
No, it definitely could. It definitely could. I think
Only the same interest you.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Managing people's
Yeah.
time.
But I think one of the first questions we have to get answered is, what are we legally allowed to do?
The only time we looked at it was the county attorney brought, I'm quite certain it was an excerpt from the general municipal
There's a law that said that we couldn't do credit unions.
But your recommendation, I think, is great. I need to speak to our peers, I need to trade organization.
Yeah. There's got to be something there that says you can do this,
Exactly.
and this you can't do, you know, or this, you know, and hopefully it's more we can, it'll give us more options, but if we don't, well, I think we need to know that, because guessing is not good, and we don't want to go down something that we're going to do something wrong.
Right.
Because the ABO and or whomever will catch us on that. So we want to do something that is transparent and that is legal, that we're allowed to do.
Now, we could squeeze in, we could do the research, and we could come up with that, we could update that rate matrix for the next Wednesday board meeting, or do you think it's what's more realistic, aiming for the next finance committee meeting, we have all?
My concern is this. Again, my opinion, I think your time is better spent trying to figure out what we can and can't do. And then what I will do is, I will talk to my guy on Friday, and I'll say, give me a list of the current 3 months, the current
Snapshot,
6
yeah.
months, the current 1 year. And I'll create a spreadsheet for you all. So at least that gives a talking point. And then if you can try and track down
Rules.
the
What
rules.
we can and can't do.
Can we invest in banks outside of the state? Yes or no? And whether or not we do it,
It's up to the board, yeah. It's up
Well,
to
Let's
the
see what the rules are
if
first.
we
Yeah,
have the
the rules,
rules
yeah.
and the options, then we can have an educated discussion. But my fear is that you're going to go and try and call all these banks and try and figure this out. And the Fed meets again, I think November, the 1st or 2nd week of November, and those rates are all gonna change again.
Right.
And so, let's at least get samples that we're not gonna play on, but, you know, that I can get within 10 minutes versus you. So I would prefer if you spent your time trying to figure out what we can and can't do, because that way we can.
with whomever you need to, whether if it's with council, whether if it's with bond council, whether if it's through EDC, whether it's through anybody in the industry that you're peers with, you know.
Let me ask you a question, you know, we're a county, does every county in New York State have an idea?
About,
Okay, so,
in some towns and most cities.
all right, well, let's just go apples to
I
apples.
think there's 147 of them or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So, but there's what, 26 counties? I think?
62.
62.
62 counties. who's got the money, right? Like, I mean.
Well, the IDA is like, Monroe County up in Rochester, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Give them a call, you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
don't go out, you know.
You don't wanna go after
on this video and
You don't wanna go after a county that's not doing as much.
I was gonna say, don't go after Sullivan County or someplace that's got maybe, a couple $100,000. I mean, let's try to find the counties that are the ones
Yeah, I
that
think
are
I use
really.
Mike's recommendation, go to the New York State EDC to identify.
And then, find out who's got some legit money to do. And then, like I said, we can try to hone this in, but the first day, before, when you sent me that, I looked and I was like, holy crap. I mean, this is, really, that's.
All right.
Okay.
So with that, I think we'll end the meeting and I'll have you do some stuff for potentially to bring to the next board meeting for us to ingest. And Mark is offered to do a quick snapshot and maybe a matrix. That's awesome. Like I said, we're not something, I mean, it's gonna change, but at least we could say this is like a potential framework.
But now I just want to be clear, are you talking November or next Wednesday, when you say the next board meeting?
Well, if you get any of the information
Yeah.
about what we can and can't do,
Bring
you
it
could,
to Wednesday.
yeah, you could bring it in an open discussion, say, listen, this is something that we found, this is the general municipal law, here's the 10 pages of, legalese, but not legal, we're not attorneys. But, and I reached out to so-and-so and I'm gonna get some information, whatever you have done by that. I mean, and it's not all gonna be done by then, though.
Yeah, we're
And we'll have a finance committee that will schedule for next month, maybe earlier, that will make some stuff and maybe have this and then go to the board thereafter.
And I'll also ask him, is there a way to, I'll ask him, give me the best, no matter where.
Yeah.
And then I'll also ask him, is there a way to look at maybe just New York State? Thanks.
Yeah, is it a presence? Type of thing, yeah.
Presence in New York State,
Yeah.
and then kind of go that way.
Yeah, that would be cool if you could.
To see, and this will tell us one or two things.
Yeah.
One, it doesn't matter, we should stay in New York State no matter what, because we can get almost the same exact no matter what. Or, we would lose out X amount, and we have to make a decision on, are we okay with losing out on, an extra $20,000 a year because we wanted to stay in New York State, and would we, if we do, then as long as we all agree and say consciously, we did it. I just always want to have answers.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want anyone coming to me going, why'd you do that?
Why'd you do it?
I don't know.
Yeah. Goes. A question about budget?
One other item before we close. First of all, I'll report this to the board in my report out next Wednesday, but we have the opportunity to engage Harris Beach for our individual that's been working with us, Julie Marshall specifically, who's been terrific on our Paris report. So we had conversations where they're more than open to us continue to work with her on a fee basis, but that's what we're looking at elsewhere. Our other two firms don't really think it's the best fit for them, our general counsel firms, I should say. So that is an option.
It's not the best fit for them to do, meaning.
Yeah, they don't think that they should do that work. Fees or, one reason or another. So we could continue to keep that with Harris Beach. Frankly, I think Harris Beach liked the idea of maybe keeping one toe in the water with us. I think that's the idea, but it would involve nothing else. There would be, kind of demarcation around that work that have nothing to do with bond counsel or general counsel there. But Julie Marshall is who we've been working with the last couple of Paris reporting. So we're out of juice there. In discussing where we are with Paris and what the next step is, which is reporting by November 1st, I forgot the fact that last year we had to give, I think it was the following 4 years in advance budgets we have to submit into Paris. So last year, after learning that, last minute, we came up with not only 2022 budget, which you had approved, but 23, 24, 25. So yeah, it's all four of those. But we have to actually also develop a budget for 26. I have not yet done that. Completely forgotten. Now I'll know it's to be part of our routine, but I probably will be bringing it to the board to approve that. Now it's a looking deep into the future, 2026. It'll be better than the way I did 2025 last year, but we do need to have that approved to be able to put into Paris to have the full slate of budgets. It's a draft.
So it's not we're not gonna be approving the actual budget for 26 or 25 or 24 or 23. It's just,
It will certainly change.
It'll be
for approval
Yeah.
for each subsequent year.
it's required.
So I want to give you a heads up on that. I wish I could have had it for today. I just could not get it done.
And you wanna have another consultant help us, something you need to bring to the board.
Okay.
And, I think it needs an explanation, a
Yeah.
better one. And what I mean by that is, when we said last month, was it last month or whatever,
Maybe 2 months. ago.
about, auditor, they would be doing a lot of the reporting. So who's doing what?
We could have our auditors do it, and they do it elsewhere. We just have an incredible comfort level and trust in the person that's been doing it from
Yeah,
Harris
well,
Beach,
good.
especially because she used to run an IDA.
Good.
She's just, I mean, I don't think I can say enough about,
No,
you know,
But-
how diligent she is, this, that, and the other. But I understand having to make a full explanation for why, or even present the options, comparing to RBT or something.
I mean, because I'm not gonna profess to remember all the details.
Right.
When we were doing bond counsel, we were looking at some of their descriptions on what they did. Some of that was ABO, or not ABO, was terrorist report.
Yeah.
When we looked at regular counsel, some of the descriptions of that was terrorist report.
Sure.
Who does it? Who doesn't? And,
Right.
and, obviously it's a requirement. It's something that staff has to feel comfortable that we're doing to the best of our ability.
Right.
If the best of our ability means you need help, you need to say, we need help,
Yes.
and this is how we need it. Because we're not, as a board, gonna know that.
Right.
I know we do it, and I know that you guys spend a lot of time doing it with whomever you do it with, but you need to tell us that,
Understood.
okay?
Yep, makes perfect sense.
What's the cost, what's this or what's that? It's a requirement, so, and times are the essence, so.
Yes.
Whatever needs to be discussed, I think you need to bring it forth,
Okay.
because we don't want it to flag. We
Yep.
don't want to be on the
No way.
bad list.
No
on the
way.
naughty list.
Definitely not. Okay,
The
understood.
budget
Got it.
and potential help. Anything else?
I think that's it. Anything else,
Okay.
Kelly?
So with that, we'll end, today's finance committee meeting.
6:32 p.m.
6:32. All those in favor? I don't think it was an official meeting anyway,
Right.
that's work. So Dean, you could get us out if you